RC transform Autobot City. Receptor, tell Blaster to Radio Prime for reinforcements.
What about me, Magnus? What about me? I can help. I want to help. What about me?
Blurr, you can help me alert the others.
Absolutely, positively, definitely. Nobody can get the job done faster than I can. Nobody.
Come on, RC, let's go.
Welcome back to Talk to Your Hanger. This is Mike, and I'm going to talk to you today about what's the best options for your Masterpiece Transformer shelf for the movie characters, or some people call them Season 3 characters, which they kind of are. And today I want to talk about those. And the first thing I want to point out is that if you look at this setup that I have right now, this is made up of multiple different companies. So I'm going to point out real quick, you have Masterpiece right here. So you got the Takara. Here's Unique Toys, both of those guys. Toy World, a couple of Fanstoys, a KFC Transistor there, and then a new to this realm here is the Open and Play with a big spring. Now I've got two different springers, and I'll talk about the springers last. But first, the reason I think it's the most exciting time right now to be collecting these Transformer Masterpieces, especially the third party, because they're kind of going after each other. And when you have multiple different companies coming out with the same figure, then you're actually going to get some good value. And then closer to the end of this, I'm going to show you what this exact setup looks like with G1 figures. So if you had a G1 figure collection and you set it up exactly like this with this display, what would it look like? So the first one I want to talk about is Ultra Magnus. You know, he's a big boy. And some of the things I don't like about him are the this tailbone thing he's got going on. Bulky legs, just really bulky. Just kind of looks, it doesn't even look cartoonish. But the overall aesthetic's there. The presence on the shelf is there. I'd say a little too big. I mean, if you come out with a Citizen Stack's too small. So there's multiple different options out there for this guy. So I think that, of course, if you want to go, I would go official as often as I can. There's very few that I would not go official with. And this guy's got a great head sculpt. He's got some great gimmicks to him. But at the end of the day, I think that Fanstoys could come out and really make one that blows this out of the water. And then they also had a pre-release. Before this guy was out, I was thinking it was going to be a MP10 white mold and doing more of an homage to the toy, and then just have parts forming trailer on it. I'm sure that was an idea that was thrown around because there were actual mock-up pictures floating around the internet that they would do that. But that didn't happen. So as it stands right now, this is the best option in my opinion, although he's a little bit big for my shelf. Next I want to talk about is Unique Toys Blurr. Now, this Blurr is actually a really good figure, and I was thinking that when it came out, for I think it was like 120 or 130 when it first came out, and now you can get them for about 90, purely on the secondary market, of course. And most of these third parties go up in price on the secondary market. I don't know exactly why this guy's dropped, but anyhow, he's a great figure. He looks good. Actually, he looks good from all angles. And they're really clean, Unique Toys. Did a great job with them. I don't really like the back part. Would have liked that to have maybe transitioned down, but that's not how they did it. So I don't like his elbows. That's just the way it is. But overall, he looks good. Now, I thought he was the size of a Carbot, and obviously he is not the size of a Carbot. He's way taller. So here's a Carbot, and just kind of in my mind, and when I first saw him, I thought he was that size. I thought not worth the money, but for the size that he is, although he's not really very hefty, doesn't have a lot of weight behind him, definitely worth a $90 figure with that aesthetic, and he really fills that hole, and that's Unique Toys buzzing. So next I want to talk about is the MP09, the Masterpiece Hot Rod / Rodimus, and really it's just Rodimus, trying to change the face a little bit, trying to make him an eighth of an inch shorter or some nonsense to call him Hot Rod. I mean, it was a great idea, very impractical. I don't like his chest having this gap in it, and I know that's so that you can reveal the matrix. There's some cool stuff to that, but I would have rather the whole chest piece open up and not split down the middle, because that just looks like he's not tabbing in place like he should. Now, the reason I like this guy is because if you look at the aesthetic and the size, he fits the scale better than the new Masterpiece Hot Rod. So pull him out and I'll show you. I just don't think that looks great, especially next to the likes of, like, say, Blaster or Perceptor, or definitely not next to, well, just any of them, actually. I mean, he shouldn't be shorter than the rest of these guys as a leader. So MPO9 has the aesthetic. MPO9 looks great. I know that they made a DX9 Carry, which I don't think it looks G1. I don't think it looks like the movie. I think it looks more inspired by the IDW series, which I don't have anything against that, but that's not what I'm going for. So in my collection, this guy stands up there looking good and touching with kid gloves, making sure that I'm not rough with him at all. I'm very gentle with him because he has tendency to break, and I've had a broken one. I didn't break it myself, but I had a broken one, and I could see during the transformation process how it could happen. So next I want to talk about old Fanstoys Coot here. That's Cup. Now Cup, it looks great. He's awesome. A little bit tricky transformation, but he looks amazing. And he looks like he walked off the screen. He's too short. He's shorter than RC. And then when we get to RC, I'll tell you my hangups on that. So I think the X-Transbot version coming out is going to be a little taller. I don't know for sure, so I'm holding out to find out if he's taller. And if he is indeed taller, then I would definitely go the route of getting the X-Transbot and filling in on this. I don't know if X-Transbot's going to look better, though, because this thing nails the aesthetic 100%. Just too small. I mean, I know he's old coot, but he's just a little too short for me. Next, I want to talk about Toy World's Leia, and I think that she is a great size. She also has a great aesthetic. I just like the way she looks. I like how tall she is. She's pretty clean, and of course, how they did the clean part was to not complete her. So you have in the car form, you don't have the rest of the car. The back of the car is just flat out missing. Folded up legs. They could have done more with that. So this is not without its own issues. But for my purposes of standing on the shelf and looking good, she fits the bill. The Fanstoys one's going to be shorter than Coot, so too small for me, in my opinion. So next I want to talk about the Fanstoys Tesla. And I think this is a really good Perceptor. And it kind of hits all the marks for me, and he looks good. I mean, he actually looks amazing. But the thing is that the G1 toy looked good. The G1 toy had great articulation for the time. The G1 toy matched the character animation model very well. So where do you go with this one? Well, take it a step further. Give it some weight. I like not as heavy as other Fanstoys releases, but there's some weight behind it, and he looks really good. He's what I need in a Perceptor. And Fanstoys Tesla does it. So here's the KFC Transistor. Now this guy here, he's a little bit, little light, but it's kind of what you're gonna get. It is an earlier. I think he's 3-4 years old now, so there could be a much better option coming out, but I haven't heard anything announced. I do believe there's an official down the road, but an official won't weigh any more than this guy, and probably will just look a whole lot like Soundwave. Now I think this guy has the chrome finish. I like that. I went after the chrome finish one, and it actually is harder to find now just because it's older. And the one they keep re-releasing is the one with the red, just the toy color red. But don't like the feet on it. I just think the feet could have looked better. They could have done a little bit better job with that piece. And but overall, I'm happy with it. I like this as the KFC Transistor. Next up, I got my two current Springer options. Now, Springer has 5 different ones. You've got the Toy World, which I don't have, and you have the Fanstoys I don't have, but you have what's coming out is the X-Transbot, and I really think X-Transbot's going to hit the mark. So I think X-Transbot, this one for X-Transbot, and then X-Transbot's Cup is going to make its way on my shelf. Now that it gets Fanstoys because they do amazing work, and I just have the gut feeling that I'm going to like those two better. That's why I've held off on getting the Fanstoys. Got these guys because I got them super cheap. And I was ordering something and just like, wow, that's only $60. Let me go ahead and get it. I can mess around with it and see if I like it. It can be a filler until I get a real one or whatever. But they both actually work well on your shelf, depending on what you like. The open and play, I think, I like the slimmer look to it. What I did with mine was I fold those flaps down because I felt that it made this too chunky the way it was originally. Now, it seemed like I might have hyper stressed one of the sides, but not the other. And so it's funny because I did this side first, and it was, it's no big deal, and then this side I struggled with. But I like the aesthetic look better, so that's just how he's gonna stand on the shelf. And open play, I think they did a pretty good job. He's not perfect by any means, and he's nowhere near on par with Fanstoys or with what a Transbot's going to put out. Now, Unique Toys usually does a pretty good job of making something that looks good, but I think that the legs are just too big. I could have been bulky, everything else, but the legs we can't seem to get the legs just right. I know MP10's got too bulky of legs. MP22, the Ultra Magnus, this guy here, the bulkiness in the legs, you can't fold those down, compartmentalize them down. That's really my biggest complaint about him. Also, the coloring a little off. I would have liked it a little bit different coloring. And one back point on him, his chest. See how the chest is shorter? That is actually more screen accurate. This chest goes all the way down to his stomach, and it's not accurate, screen accurate. So I'm not really sure why they went that route on the open and play. So, but either one of these are great options for fillers, or even if you just don't want to drop 120 to or 130 to 150, you could just get one of these in the $60 range. Okay, so here's kind of a G1 comparison. I have on the left here what we've grown accustomed to collecting as Masterpiece. And then here's the G1. So when you're looking at the G1, you're seeing that, well, there's a big problem, scale. I think what third party and Masterpiece have gotten a lot better at is hitting scale. So you've got like Springer over here, who is way too small based on the character models. And you've got Blaster, who's too tall. And those are really the only ones that are too far out of scale. I think the rest of them, Ultra Magnus is a bit big, but that's kind of the same problem we have with the Masterpiece. But that's kind of where it goes. So just thought it'd be kind of cool to see what I've been doing if I've dug some of my my G1 Transformers out and what they would look like. So lastly, I just want to say, if you're just now getting into collecting like third parties, or you don't want to touch the third parties, well, there's going to be a lot of these characters that Takara and Hasbro aren't going to make. And I'm actually surprised they haven't made an RC yet, but there's more coming down the pipeline. I've shared with you kind of my beliefs and what I think is going to happen. So good luck out there. The movie Transformer collecting is kind of fun right now because there's so many things coming out. And I think that we'll be seeing a lot of those main releases the next couple of years. Then we'll be getting some either rehashes or some other characters and just going off in a different direction. So right now is an exciting time. Titanium Hanger, out.